They do realize the Great Illuminary is on fire, right? Right? Now, I know I might sound just a wee bit dramatic whenever I say that, but hear me out. I mean, it's kind of true. And I know you may think that it's a metaphor when I say that the Great Illuminary is on fire. I mean, I get it. There's been a lot of stuff going on here recently that makes it feel as if the game that we all love is kind of falling apart and it really is on fire. I mean, over the past few months alone, there's been so much controversy and stir up within the community whenever it comes to this game, all the way back from the time that World Championship happened. And even prior to that, when we learned that it was going to be a closed event. And we spent so long waiting to get news and transparency and communication from Ravensburger themselves. And then even since then, we finally got information, but then we're upset that DLC within season 2 aren't living up to the expectation that we thought that they would in comparison to season 1. Turn around to just a few weeks later whenever Bologna and Milwaukee DLC tickets go on sale, and that was nothing but a dumpster fire. Leading all the way up to even today during the Lorecast, whenever the community once again turned its eyes to the decisions that Ravensburger is making with this image here. Maybe you've already seen it. And if you've been anywhere online since the Lorecast happened, then maybe you are familiar with this. But for those who aren't, during today's Lorecast, we actually had Greg Tito and Ryan Miller come together on the Go Home show before Gen Con, where they will be releasing more information on Fabled, Whispers in the Well, and possibly even other sets to come. So, what is this image here? It is a cumulative list of the number of cards, both mechanically new cards that we're seeing for the first time, and reprinted cards, and the amount that we'll get in each rarity, including the new epic and iconic rarities. But what's insane is the fact that we will be having 171 reprinted cards. I could be mistaken, and I would love for anybody to, if I am wrong, let me know. Or if you could find any other information on this, be sure to leave it down in the comments or reach out to me and let me know. But from my understanding, it seemed like the marketing leading up to this event or to Fabled, we knew that reprints were happening. We know that set rotation is going to take place whenever Fabled launches in August. But to me, it was kind of stated that about 50% or somewhat over 50%, either way, it seemed like about half of the cards in Fabled were going to be reprints. So I think this comes at a shock to the entire community that it's actually a lot closer to 84 to 85% of the cards that make up Fabled are going to be reprints. I will say that this is probably a great decision whenever it comes to new players coming to the game. Players who maybe didn't have the opportunity to get some of the cards that were released throughout sets 1 through 4, whether it be the Sad Boy Beast, whether it's the Diablos, the Rapunzels, the Cinderella Stout Hearted, or Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, all these cards that we've grown to love. Granted, we don't know a full list yet of what will be reprinted. There are still cards that will be reprinted that a lot of people didn't get their hands on the first time around, and now they'll be able to. But for players like myself and the others at the ink table, and a lot of people within my community, we have been around. We've been around since the first chapter, or Rise of the Floodborn, or shortly after. These are cards that we already have. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what is it that is driving us to purchase this product in order to collect these cards when over 85% of them are cards that we potentially already own? I mean, there are only 33 new cards in this entire set that we're really searching for outside of the Enchanteds, the Epics, and of course the new Iconics. Now, I'm going to cover a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I will say that out of the 33 new cards, there's probably a list that I have in my head of about 10 cards that we've already seen or we are somewhat aware that we're going to get. I mean, everything from the possible eye to eye action or song that we see on the single player packs to the new Steamboat Mickey to the Corella DeVille, the Max and Powerline, who's a Floodborn. So it's safe to say that there's possibly going to be a Floodborn shift target as like a Powerline shift. And even in the iconic, we know that the Prince Mickey that we see is a Floodborn, a 3-cost Ruby Floodborn. So what is he shifting onto? Because we don't have any smaller Ruby Mickeys yet. So I'm sure that's another card that'll be released. You have the new Mulan that you see in the starter deck or the single player deck. I mean, there's at least 10 cards that we're already aware of or familiar of out of those 33. And we practically already know a handful of the returning cards. Everything from Rockstar Stitch, Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. We know that we're getting the 3-cost Elsa because we've seen the epic version of her. We know that we're possibly getting a Lilo Galactic Hero because we may have seen an enchanted version of her already. And we know that Maleficent Dragon is coming because we've seen that it is being reprinted. And we've also seen that it will be part of the set championships within Fabled. Which brings us down here to these returning cards real quick. There are 6 legendary reprint cards coming. Me, if I was sleuthing this out, I would say that with there being 6 legendaries, that it is probably 1 legendary per ink. And if we already know that the Maleficent Dragon is coming, that kind of like marks out the Ruby legendary slot. There is no guessing around of what Ruby legendary we're getting. It doesn't seem like we're getting Brave Little Taylor or any other legendary Ruby card. It will be the Maleficent Dragon. Now we just have to determine what the other 5 are. And then down here with the super rares, with there being 12, I'm sure it's the same way. It's probably just doubled. Each ink collar seems like it will end up getting 2 super rares brought over. So at Gen Con, there will actually be a secondary event taking place outside of the second anniversary celebration panel that will be live streamed on Lorcana and Gen Con's Twitch channels for all to see if you can't make it there in person. But these are the giant card reveals. These giant card reveals, it says, prepare to see fan favorite cards returning in Fabled, revealed by prominent community members in front of a Disney Lorcana cosplay photo op backdrop in the Hoosier hallway. And if we look at the reveal times, there's actually going to be 1 on Thursday at 3 p.m., 2 on Friday, 1 at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., 2 on Saturday, 1 at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., and 1 on Sunday at 12 p.m. Altogether, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Okay, let's keep that number in mind. Then down here at the end, it says, after each reveal, the giant cards will move to booth 2001, where you can see them up close throughout the show. Don't miss your chance to be among the first to witness these legendary additions to the realm of Lorcana. So to me, reading this, putting 2 and 2 together, it seems like the 6 cards that are going to be revealed, they've said are fan favorite cards returning in Fabled, therefore reprints. And here at the end, they don't come right out and say it, but they say witness these legendary additions. And we know how Ravensburger works. They always love these play on of words. So to me, it's saying that these card reveals will be those 6 legendary reprints that are coming right here within Fabled. So maybe by the end of Gen Con, we'll know what the 6 are. Outside of the Maleficent Dragon, we'll see what else we get. But back at the topic at hand, the Great Illuminary is on fire. I wasn't speaking metaphorically, I truly meant it. Within the story of Lorcana, the Great Illuminary is crumbling and falling apart. Yet, what do we do about it? So on the LoreCast, I actually asked a question, which you can see highlighted here in the chat, whenever they were addressing these reprints of the 171 cards coming to Lorcana. because for whatever reason, none of these cards will have alternative art in comparison to the Captain Hook Forceful Duelist and the Dalmatian Puppy that we just received in this set, who did have alternative art. So, me being me, loving the story of Lorcana, knowing that we don't have story trailers anymore. Yes, we have the lore cards, but we're very, very limited in the way that we can tell stories within this game. So, my big question with cards not receiving alternative art, yet they're already going to be reprinted. We've seen these cards before. So, how do they tie to the story? So, my question was, how do you continue telling a story throughout art in reprints that have the same art as before? Will future reprints receive alt art versions? So, Greg Tito actually saw this comment and immediately he was like, "Oh, this is a good question." And he pointed it out to Ryan Miller, and they were quick to answer it. But man, did their answer really shock and surprise me. And I know that I should probably be focused on the number of reprints in comparison to new cards like everybody else is. I mean, heck, at one point, this video was supposed to be me going in and making my predictions of what cards I would like to see or what cards I think we will see. But at the end of the day, that's all kind of pointless now because of their answer to this question. So I'm not going to actually play it. I will leave a link that will bring you directly to this portion of the VOD of their Twitch, and I'm sure it'll end up going on their YouTube as well. And you can listen to it for yourself, but I'll kind of hit the synopsis here of what was said. Ultimately, Ryan came out and Greg kind of already knew too, and they were like, "Well, the answer to this question is we don't tell a story through the art right now during this set because Fabled is a standalone set that will not be taking place within the actual story of Lorcana, and it does not connect to any of the stories previous to Fabled or post Fabled. That part of the reason is because of exactly what my question was. With there being 171 cards that are being reprinted, that's a lot of cards and a lot of stress whenever it comes to the artist turning around and creating new art for all of these cards. It kind of just doesn't make sense. So, Fabled as a set does not play a role within the story of Lorcana. Honestly, I'm kind of in denial still. I don't want to believe it. I had this pre-built idea of what Fabled would be, and yeah, I thought it would be a standalone set within the story. Honestly, I thought it would be like a flashback episode where, just like in a movie or a TV show, you have an entire episode where it doesn't take place currently of what's going on, but you see visions of the past and you get to learn more about the characters, the story, the world of Lorcana itself, and potentially Archazia. This is something we covered in my last video. But to learn that ultimately it means nothing. This is just a celebratory set that is meant to draw new players in, give new players the old cards that we had, and kind of press the reset button so they can get things right whenever it comes to competitive play, DLCs, and everything else with rotations and stuff going forward. I mean, heck, even if we come over to the actual Fabled page on the Lorcana website, and it's so straightforward. I mean, yes, we've talked about this tagline, "Welcome to the story," and I've asked before, what do you mean, welcome to the story? We're on set 9. How are we being welcomed for the first time now? Which, to me, ultimately, this was what was supposed to be that flashback scene, which is why we were being welcomed to the story. But if we actually read more, it says there's power in the tales we tell. Welcome to Disney Lorcana, a realm where magical stories come to life. Whether this is your first time playing the game or you're returning to team up with a few new pals, there's something for everyone in Fabled. It says it right here. It pretty much tells us that this isn't about the story. This isn't about everything that has led up to where we are now. This is just a celebration of all things Lorcana, and they really are focusing on those players who this is going to be their first time playing the game. But for real, what are we doing? We didn't have a celebratory set like this for Lorcana's first birthday, so why are we doing it for the second? And is this going to be a trend that we see going forward with the third, fourth, fifth, whatever to come? Like, to me, whenever you have a celebratory set, it's for something that's been out for a while. You've done things right. Your community is coming together to actually applaud and celebrate everything that you've done. And we haven't been doing that here recently. We've been doing the exact opposite. So, what reason do we actually have to celebrate? Not to mention the fact that once again, the Great Illuminary is on fire. We have just went full force from the time of Shimmering Skies all the way up until present, trying to solve one thing, trying to solve one problem. And I'm going to play this a little bit. Oh, what's this? That's a piece of the Great Illuminary falling apart during Shimmering Skies and that celebration that we had last time after we defeated Ursula. We see Merlin here get hit in the head by a piece of the Illuminary, and he has these crazy visions of the future, and we'll cover some of these cards in detail and we'll go over the story a little bit. But just looking at it, I mean, it's such a significant thing that we're not wrapping up. We're not coming back to this. We're just sitting here and we're letting the Great Illuminary fall apart and burn around us. And we're just going to sit here and have a celebratory set. And we're not going to address the actual issue until set 10, Whispers in the Well, where they've said the story will continue. So, if we come back to the Lorcana webpage and we go to our little story section that we've talked about in the past, and we hit up Shimmering Skies, this is the story that we'll be focusing on today. So Shimmering Skies here, a vision of discovery, mysterious maps, hidden rooms, and danger just around the corner. So let's hit continue reading here. And this will pop up a page that tells us all about what's happening during that video and during these events. We see Merlin here, the vision of discovery, which this is a card, which we'll talk about a little bit. It's visions of the future. And a lot of these cards, I've told people countless times over and over and over again that these aren't just cards, but together, if you pay attention to them and you really dissect this art, it tells a story. So let's read some of this together and see what we can learn. So, Merlin never enjoyed getting hit in the head. This time, however, was quite fortuitous. Yes, he supposed that at the end of it all, it was okay because everyone was spared when the Great Illuminary was crumbling and crashing down. Shortly thereafter, a tiny piece of the tower had struck this Merlin Glimmer directly on his wizened head, sending him into a vision of magical artifacts and a gloriously restored Illuminary. Martin and a very clever Basil Glimmer were the first to locate one of these mystical items, an amber Chromicon. Remember that. Chromicon. Inside a secret room within the Hall of Lorcana. This gave everyone hope. With a bit of diligent searching, anyone could uncover the rest of the hidden Chromicons. I mean, yeah, because if Martin can find one of these Chromicons, then anybody can find a Chromicon, right? So Venturo, the wisest of our three Illuminaires and the one who harnesses the power of Sapphire Ink, being quite sensible, sent Merlin to lead a group to cover more ground. One particular Scrooge McDuck Glimmer, having shrewdly acquired a map from the first hidden room, was a natural choice for Merlin's search party. Scrooge's nephew Donald invited himself along, but even with the assistance of his massive magnifying glass, the Glimmer spent far too much time studying the map to discover a hidden room of their own. And we can actually see that Donald Duck here, the Donald Duck focused Flatfoot with his magnifying glass and the fact that he is a detective. This is how this card comes to be. I mean, he's a Dreamborn card, but it comes to exist because of this story. It took a passing Moana glimmer to pull the proverbial rug out from under them. She was searching the hall of Lorcana herself, a blazing torch in hand and a keen look in her eyes. Here's that card of Moana with the torch, and you can kind of see the Chromicons here in the back. Investigate every part of the Illuminary. Find the Chromicons, restore the Illuminary. How hard can it? Wait, what was that noise? She only needed a glance at the map to tell it wasn't a guy through the Illuminary at all. Rather, it was pointing them elsewhere, towards a sea. Moana scanned the room for clues and stopped in front of a bookshelf. Then something odd happened. Her torch's flames bent sideways toward a thin line that ran between two bookshelves. Merlin rushed to the wall and let his spindly fingers trace the line until he found a small recess. There was a small click, and to the group's astonishment, a door carefully camouflaged as a bookcase rotated open with a low groan. The moment Merlin peeked inside, several tiny spheres glowed to life. So by now, the entire group had joined them. Together, they tiptoed into the room. On the other side of the chamber was a table where lay a deep blue jewel set in gold frame. Merlin could feel the knowledge radiating from it, the sapphire Chromicon. Just then, Moana turned around with a puzzled look on her face. Merlin glanced at the doorway just in time to see a tall, slender silhouette dart away. Moana was across the room in a blink of an eye, but after a few tense moments, she returned and shook her head slowly. So during this time, while everybody was searching the Great Illuminary for the Chromicons, and they were following this map that Scrooge had, which we'll pull that map up here in a minute, you actually hear about these skinny figures lurking around, and even in that Moana card, you hear it or you see it here in the flavor text. It was like, wait, what was that noise? That was actually Jafar in the background trying to get his hands on the Hexwell crown this entire time. So while everyone else was distracted, he was putting his plan together to take the crown. Well, then, this item deserved even more of Merlin's attention if shadowy figures lurking about. He cleared his mind and looked at the azure light wafting up from the Chromicon. By chance, he glanced at the map gripped tightly in Scrooge's hand and noticed a strange symbol at its corner. Immediately, a swirling pattern of visionary light issued from his cap and unfurled before his view. And this is actually my buddy Preston's one of his favorite cards, the Merlin Intellectual Visionary. But the art is that here of Merlin looking over, seeing Scrooge hold this map, and he gets another intellectual vision that only Merlin can get. That Scrooge being this Scrooge here. And his flavor text reads, "The secret room should be right here. Ah, I cannot believe I paid a whole penny for this map." That map, of course, like Moana said, whenever she saw it, she could tell that it was leading not through the Great Illuminary, but through a sea. And if we could focus on this logo here, we actually can tell that this is one of the first times that we see the logo for Archazia. All the way back in set 5, we get this map with Archazia's symbol and logo on it, and it was this map that eventually led this entire group of Glimmers and Illuminaires to head out towards the Azurite Sea in set 6, travel through the Azurite Sea, travel through the perilous maze, and eventually make their way to our island that we would later learn was Archazia's island. So the entire story leading to this point centers around the fact that the Great Illuminary is on fire. So everything that we've done, looking for the Chromicons during Shimmering Skies, finding the map, crossing the Azurite Sea, finally meeting Archazia for the first time, it all leads back to this. So here at the end, Merlin's eyes widened. It became blindingly obvious that their presumed mission to repair the Illuminary was part of something larger, much larger. But that was a matter for the future. Right now, it was enough to fill the excitement of finding a lost magical artifact. So he set off with his fellow Glimmers to deliver the Sapphire Chromicon to Venturo back at the celebration grounds. Only this time, Merlin would keep at least one eye on the sky. So, two Chromicons have been found at this point. Martin has the Amber Chromicon. Venturo now has the Sapphire Chromicon. Where are the rest? Yes, we as players have seen the Chromicons. We know what they look like, potentially because Merlin knows what they look like because he's seen them in his vision of the future. He knows that these items will be needed in order to save the Illuminary, to put out that fire, to make sure that it's not crumbling anymore. But just as Merlin went on about his business, gave the Sapphire Chromicon to Venturo, and everybody went back to partying, seems like that's what Ravensburger has us doing right now. Because in Fabled, we're just celebrating. We have nothing to do with his story, and there is no urgency to wrap things up. There is no urgency to save the Illuminary or to find these other Chromicons. Which brings me to this idea of the story going forward, of the next arc. We had the Archazia arc already within the first, well, I guess first 8 sets. It really kind of started in set 5 when they find that map for the first time, and then 5 through 8 is the Archazia arc. But now with reprints happening and set rotation happening, it kind of starts with set 5 with Shimmering Skies, where these Chromicons were introduced to us for the first time. So to me, this next arc of Disney Lorcana will be the Chromicon arc. After Fabled, we have 3 sets. We have Whispers in the Well, and the 2 after that. And then we have another set rotation where sets 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be rotated out. So unless these Chromicons are reprinted, then we are limited to 3 sets to wrap up the story of these Chromicons. So starting in Whispers in the Well, I think this is going to be the primary focus, is tracking down the remaining Chromicons, because again, we already have the Amber and we already have the Sapphire Chromicon. So going forward, we will need to find the Amethyst, the Emerald, the Ruby, and the Steel. Martin and says it down here himself. I mean, it's the moment Martin stumbled upon one of these strange artifacts from Merlin's vision, he knew immediately that these Chromicons were just a small part of a much larger story. And his suspicions were confirmed as the revitalizing effects of the Amber Chromicon took hold. One way or another, Lorcana needed these artifacts. All 6 Chromicons possess powers the Illumineers and Glimmers need. Each of the ancient Chromicons holds within its special powers to aid the Illumineers in their quest to restore the Great Illuminary and protect the realm of Lorcana from further threats. The hunt is on, but the question remains, where did the Chromicons come from, and where might the search to find them? I guess it'll be in set 10. After Fabled, in Whispers in the Well, that we'll find out. We'll see. What is the Well? What does it have to do with the Chromicons, and what does it have to do with the Great Illuminary? I guess at the end of the day, that's a story for another time. But if you liked this video, and maybe I taught you something, then hey, why don't you subscribe? Or come on over to the Ink Table Podcast channel where I host the Ink Table Podcast. You can follow us along as we produce our monthly podcasts and we expand on conversations and topics just like this. Or even better, head over and check out our Discord. The link will be in the description. It's the place where the table talk never ends. We're constantly talking, even today alone during the Lorecast. Our entire little group of Illumineers who stretch the entire globe from the United States, Canada, Ireland, and beyond came together to discuss everything that was happening as it was happening. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening to me rant or vent just a little bit. And I really do hope that I did teach you a little bit about the story. And I don't know, we'll see where it goes from here. But until next time, keep telling your story.